Oh, g'day. Yeah, this is Dr. Rich McLean. This is my public interest disclosure for the Australian Government. I would just wish to say, me and my dog here reside, you know where I live. I need a new place. That's because I'm at great risk of violence and heinous neglect, which has already occurred for approximately 20 months after I sustained a fatal injury, or what was deemed fatal, in the Freedom of Information in Werribee Mercy Hospital in February 2021. That suicide attempt was underpinned by powerful political people and cowards, such as Steve Icenides and Mr. Ball and a whole lot of other people that have underpinned my unravelling. Now, as people will know, I'm a public figure. I not only was a former illustrator for the Herald Sun and The Age, which both vilified me publicly and fired me because of my perceived mental illness and my public acknowledgement of that. But I've been a public speaker and advocate for the best part of 25 years. I've fundraised for the Royal Children's Hospital, and I've spoken in your parliament, our parliament, and Sane's Book of the Year, a Human Rights Award. I've spoken thousands of times. Many people would remember seeing me speak. But surprised at the level of brutal systemic oppression that this government has victimised intentionally and specifically on me. It's abhorrent. I'm not safe in my house. I need a new place to stay. It is against the Charter of Human Rights of people with a disability to act outside the remit of that as a public official. I ask all parliamentarians and people of public office, of which I'm one, to act within the Charter, which includes, and not limited to, that people with a disability have equal access to the law, that they are not victimised, vilified, and that they are not robbed of the sanctity of life, that they are not prejudiced against, and they are words escape me. They're not persecuted. Basically, this is clearly happening to me. It is abhorrent. I have many grievances with the Australian government, up to and including the Office of Prime Minister and Cabinet, who refuse to give me my freedom of information. Why would that matter, giving that to me? Because it would detail the innocence which I come from, as opposed to the detriment that's dribbled to me in my car and the radio. And you can call me crazy. Yeah, Jesus was crazy too, mate. But this level of persecution is abhorrent, and I'm not really dealing well with it. Who would? I've lost the Office of Prime Minister and Cabinet are covering up the fact that Steve Icenides, a former ASIO employee, and I were in a relationship for 5 years and were engaged to be married. And every single person who I know would be aware of that fact. Not one person has crossed the floor or come to me in support by simply stating he deserves a legal, equitable and fair separation of their assets from a relationship in which I had a nest egg and was financially and sexually exploited for over 5 years and used and then dumped as a homeless person. So obviously there's some systemic government corruption going on. I'll just go on a little bit of a rant here. So we've got my work cover. I became unwell from my work triggered by sexual abuse, and it's manifestation in my life as a child and the defence of that as I moved on through my life to acknowledge it after my doctorate. It was corrupted by a magistrate. The Vocat case was framed. Another VOCAT case was framed. I'll go back to that in a minute. There's a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice in that my work cover has not been paid. My work cover. And I got unwell from work emotionally from the consistent triggers of my client, and I was doing their VOCAT case for them. And I was an allied health professional, and I worked for the NDIS. I have a DSS security workers number. I am a worker. The WorkSafe Victoria have refused to acknowledge me and pushed me onto Comcare, and Comcare delayed, deferred, denied my justice and my prosperity, just like Steve Isonides has done. And in doing so, they pushed it on, and Paul Fowler was the guy that kicked me off it, saying I'm not registered for the purpose of the SRC Act or some legislation I don't understand. That's because I don't have a lawyer. We'll get onto that in a minute. But Paul Fowler is the old head at WorkSafe, and we can smell corruption right there. Now, I don't have a lawyer because I had a legitimate concern, and I do. I'm a very, very sensitive person, and you know what? Everyone's weakness builds me, because one day you'll find out whether I'm dead or alive if your positions could remain accountable in an ethical manner. And I just wish to say that so these methods of oppressing me that happen systemically were set up to fail from a few different genesis points. And one of those is a legitimate concern I had with a GP in which I was suicidal. I happened to have a recording of that. That is valid evidence before a court. It's within the 6 years, and I wish it to go to court. I need help for that. What I didn't know was that his lawyer, Mr. Ball of Ball and Partners, is a powerful political key player in the Australian landscape, and also that he informs government policy, he sits on the Australian legal bar, and he advises the Ombudsman. As you can see, my methods to get to justice of a legitimate complaint were already foiled. I could not get a lawyer. I was set up to fail at the Health Complaints Commissioner, at the Mental Health Complaints Commissioner, at APRA, where Mr. Ball used to do talks, NHPOPC, to the Victorian Inspectorate, IBAC, and then the Ombudsman. Surprise, which didn't get anywhere. I only found that out after I'd survived what was deemed as, in the Freedom of Information, a fatal injury and a lethal attempt, and I was found unresponsive, having bled out in a hospital. This is the result of systemic, sustained over years, government abuse and corruption, and a vile victimisation of me as a person. And it exploited existing, publicly known vulnerabilities that I was perceived to have had. And it still does that to this day. I'm not safe in my home. My internet's intercepted. My online business, it used to be richieMcLean.com, but changed to richmclean.com.au. That was maliciously destroyed by the management at James at Micron 21, where I was hosting my site, a company that's attached to government agencies and the government. And it was done so with intensious, malicious desire to absolutely fucking destroy what I am and my persona and my person and everything that supported me infrastructure-wise. And to that, it was my online business. I used to make money from that. I've worked damn hard as an artist all of my life. And I've worked damn hard in my academic pursuits, attaining a doctorate in, 2020. And I just wish to say that people consider that as a marginalised person who is mentally ill, who doesn't suit the this false idea that you have to have money to be successful, or a regular job like one of the sheeple to be success. I am a success. I'm a fucking success. I'm a success for even living post-death. So I was saved, and then for 20 months I've survived. First of all, government put me on, and I'd been on a disability pension before, job seeker, when I was already on sick leave, and I'd just survived killing myself. That was a real kick in the teeth. And after that, I begged for a pension, and after that, the powers that be delayed, deferred, denied, exploited, demonised, victimised, vilified, and identified me as a person of interest. And the master plan, was to reduce me from any power and any prosperity. And it's a setup to kill me. I'm a vulnerable person, and it is used to aid and abet my death. There is no other way to see it. I'm not a normal person. I have spoken in the Parliament. I've spoken in keynote speeches. I've spoken on the Today Show. I've spoken in all the Radio National and Triple J, all the youth networks. I have a particular interest in defending young people and exploring sexuality, consent, and all sorts of other drug-related issues, everything like that. And I have been a proud public advocate off my own back through altruism for most of my life. And now it's incumbent on the powers that be to get their fucking collective shit together and get me out of this house, because I am getting threatened at the door. I am getting followed, and this systemic neglect and abuse has not only seen me basically killed, but it has seen the further elongation of my suffering through many agencies and avenues, including insurance, HCF, Sheena Jack, thanks for the fraudulent documents, Health Super, DXC, thanks for not giving me my insurance, BizCover. You have no idea how high this goes. IGIS won't even investigate Steve Isonides and the way we were together. Neither will the tax department, even though, he particularly put his money aside just before we broke up, when he had forsaken me, preaching monogamy and doing the opposite, and tucked his little money away, squirreled it away in a little tax offshore haven, didn't he? And you know what? That stinks to me. And you know what? I just want to end up by saying this. That people in positions of public authority have a moral obligation to not act outside the remit of the Charter of Human Rights of a person with a disability, and also they are required to act with human dignity and to act ethically. Ethics means do no harm. I've never meant harm on anyone. That's changing these days because of the systemic and sustained prolonged attack on me, my finances, my business, my person. I don't have a friend in the world. My own sister says you're a schizo and a druggo and get the fuck out of our lives. My mother said it was my suicide. I bet you got over that. I can't feel my feet. I haven't been able to think right. I can't get a doctor. I'm banned from 2 surgeries now. And the other surgery won't even give me my medication because it is overseen by who? The fucking government. And the government now are medicating me forcibly by the state for delusions of persecution that are absolutely fucking real, and I'm watching you. I know you're watching me. A person who has acted with good intent his whole life and altruistically and put his very vulnerability on the line in a courageous way that and totally mostly off my own bat is it's just not permissible that the Office of Prime Minister and Cabinet, refused my freedom of information. I have had to reverse engineer this beast from very simple beginnings right up until the top. And in the process, that collective, base, rudimentary, judgmental, stigmatising, prejudiced view of me and the libel and slander that's been spewed to me has actually killed me. But I lived. It is incumbent on the government now to accept my public interest disclosure, especially framed by the fact that not only can't I get a lawyer, not only can't I go to police, but I'm a failed whistleblower at IBAC, ASIC, APRA, and the Commonwealth Ombudsman. I have no money, I have no worth, I have no value, I have no friends, I have no family, but I have faith. And you know what? For people who stick together in large groups, afraid to be on their own, and via nepotism of collective, financially rich people who hide behind proxies, is the absolute height of audacious cowardliness. How can you live with yourselves? I can live with me. I love who I am, and I'll stand by what I say and what I believe in, and I demand that I get a lawyer, healthcare, be moved from this fucking house where I'm under literal attack and possible murder, and furthermore that I want whistleblower protection immediately, and I expect to be free from any persecution from the law or litigation, and I request the freedom to litigate against people like Tim Goss and Peter Fisher. They're your local people there out at the Australian Financial Complaints Authority who acted outside their remit to delay, defer, deny my financial determinations. Had a goal, didn't it? Worked. Got me hospitalised, nearly killed me. After that, it was supposed to be done within 4 weeks for a marginalised person financially. That was not adhered to. And further, they acted with impunity to help destroy me. Well, you know what? I'm not destroyed. In actual fact, I've got cancer, but I can't get a doctor. I have a mental illness, but I can't see a psychologist. I haven't even got one. Or a psychiatrist. I can't feel my feet. I've got a brain detriment from the loss of blood. What an abhorrent way to treat one of your Australian, formerly nationally celebrated human rights champions. What a disgraceful way, people of Australia, to treat someone who has put themselves out on a limb in order to reduce the suffering of other people and live a storied life and sharing stories and accepting and sharing, valuing information and experience. It's a shameful way that the collective community has treated me, especially, of course, at the police, who every time I try and report something, they ask, how's your mental illness? And don't want to validate anything of legal worth or frame anything in a legal way. That time is over. I request immediate whistleblower protection. I was going to say Liz Lindbergh too, the Australian Human Rights Commission. Thanks to you, I lost a $1 to $2 million conciliation. That as an impartial body, the Australian Human Rights Commission free kicked to the opposite team as an impartial body, and that's corruption. All these people have one thing in common. They are paid by the government to toe the party line in order to demonise, victimise, vilify, identify me as a person, as an individual. And because I'm paranoid and I can barely believe this is happening to me, yes, I've recorded stuff because sometimes my perception's a little bit off, as people will know, because they exploit that to their advantage. What a shameful bunch of people humans are, really, basically. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. This is part of my public interest disclosure. I expect immediate results for Crystal and I the dog. And you know what? We don't even want the money. The millions and millions of dollars of detriment. Because I've already, through my research, established a list of benefactors that, apart from me being safe and free from violence and systemic oppression that aids and abets my death without healthcare or legal care, and my human dignity fucking trashed, that I'm going to just, once I'm safe and in a place of my own, I'm going to delegate that money through a trust fund to what I've always done. And that's be a voice for the voiceless and stick up for the marginalised. That's what I've got to say.